The regular season is heating up, new stars are emerging, and that means more opportunities to win up to 25 times your cash on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection on a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's that easy. Let it fly to turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Watch your favorite players and get paid doing it this basketball season. See your entries make progress during the game or make new entries for the second half and the fourth quarter. 3-pointers, assists, rebounds, and everything in between are yours for the taking. Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
So our podcast is called Right and Wrong.
Are these your notes?
These
Are these your notes about what we're going to say?
Anything.
Nailed it.
Is the short answer.
So how many novels did you not finish?
Oh my God, so many.
It was perfect. What's she talking about? This is nonsense.
Ooh, a spicy question. I love it.
This is it, guys. The big secret to getting published is you have to write a good book. You heard it here first. Hello, and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. As always, I'm Jamie, and I'm very excited to be joined by one half of the Skylark Literary Agency, Joanna Moult. Hello, welcome.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well. Yeah, really well, thank you.
How's we're 1 month into 2022 now. How's it going?
Well, it's all been a bit overwhelming, but I think that's just for everybody. But yes, for Skylark, it's been great. Lots going on. Yeah, so it's been fun.
Busy. Good to be busy.
Always.
So diving right in with the agency, Skylark Literary, you and Amber started it it's 2014?
That's right, yes. It's over 7 years old now, our baby.
Yeah, approaching the decade.
Yeah.
How's it all going? How's getting older, I guess, the company? How's it going?
Yeah. Well, it's funny how it does change, actually. When we started off, obviously we didn't actually have any clients at all because we were both coming from our publishing backgrounds.
Yeah.
So we set it up really slowly, and it was very much our ethos and our plan from the outset to make sure we didn't take on a load of clients. So we were very keen to build it from a very small place to not grow it until it was enormous, where we want to really focus on the clients we take on. And so we only take on clients that we absolutely passionately love their writing. And so, from our point of view, that makes it a lot easier to sell them because we know they're brilliant. And we've deliberately kept those client lists really sort of small and bespoke, because then we can also offer the best possible experience for the client as well. And all clients need different requirements from their agent, and we want to be able to give them everything they need. So it has grown, and we have got a lot more clients now than obviously when we started from nil, but still we're very small, and that's how we like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other thing is also publishing is such an organic industry, and everyone is different and does have their own needs and approaches it in different ways. But also there's a sort of a faux seasonality to how much work needs to go into a different client, because it's very dependent on where they're at on whatever they're working on.
Absolutely. And that is the kind of ebb and flow of those requirements. I mean, for our perspective, we hope that the first manuscript we send out will find a brilliant publishing home with an amazing editor who is their absolute brilliant champion within that publishing team. And we will only be there to sort of cheer on from the sidelines. That's how we like it. And then obviously they'll go on to this amazing publishing career where they stay with one publisher and all is well. But really, that kind of linear experience is very rare. And there are so many sort of hiccups along the way in all of that process that we do, have a real kind of balancing act to, and we may have to step in and be much more supportive at some times. And other times we're happy to kind of sit back and just be delighted for our clients seeing them soar. Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream come true scenario, right? You send them, everything's great, everyone's great, and it's done, sort of neatly tied up and sent off.
Absolutely, yes. I wish that for all of my clients. Sadly, the reality of it is that it's a bumpy road. Publication, writing all the way through to, becoming a bestseller is never a comfortable road.
Yes, it takes many years to become an overnight sensation.
So true. So true.
And you mentioned that both you and Amber you weren't from sort of agenting roles prior. Were you both in editorial roles?
That's right, yes. So we were both in-house in publishers of various different sizes and shapes, but in children's and young adult, specifically both of us. So that's where our expertise lay, and it's where our passion lies as well. So very much children's YA fiction editorial was both of our backgrounds, and it was really evident that staying within a publishing environment means that it's a lot harder to really focus on that editorial side of things, and do what we really love is also building that relationship with an author and getting the best out of them. So I had a bit of a break between leaving publishing and setting up Skylark, where Amber came straight from her editorial director role at Orion straight into Skylark. So she had that big jump from one side of the fence to the other, whereas I had freelanced for a while. So I kind of got used to kind of doing lots of different jobs and working from home and things like that. So it's worked really well. And the great thing was, when we kind of were discussing setting Skylark up, we were talking about all the people we knew in publishing. Who do you know that publisher? Who do you know that publisher? And by dint of where we'd worked, and we hadn't really crossed over much, we actually knew between us a real range of people already. So it was really great, because it meant that we already had those relationships, but we were just coming at it from the other side. So even more excuses to go in and have cups of tea and cake and your glass of wine with editors. Yeah, our friends and ex-colleagues.
Oh, amazing. Because I was going to ask, is it a preference or a sort of knowledge contact base that keeps you both in children's and YA? It sounds like it's sort of both.
It is both, yeah.
Would you ever consider doing adult?
Yes, I would consider doing adult, but I feel that with adult, it's very easy to get sucked into different genres and get stuck there. And what I absolutely love about children's and YA is, and on both sides, working within publishing and working within agenting, is that you're working on different genres and different age groups all the time, and you can really kind of get your fix from all angles. And I suppose my passion has always been children's and YA, because that's where I really feel you make a connection to the reader for the first time, and they experience that absolute magic of being in a book and feeling seen or having their feelings mirrored back to them. And that magic, that buzz, I still remember that from the books that I fell in love with as a child. So the idea of being part of that experience for other children and young adults is really important to me.
Yeah, there's definitely something about reading that you don't get from other mediums like television or music or video games, or something so immersive and sort of personal. I guess it's the back and forth where you, as a reader, you sort of also have input in the story and the visualizations and things. Absolutely.
And that's another brilliant thing about reading, is that you set the scene, don't you? You can paint the backdrop however you like it. So actually you can make it really as about you, or as much of an escape from you as you would like it to be.
Yeah. That's a lovely way of putting it. So at the agency, is it just you and Amber, or do you have assistants or a support team?
No, it's just me and Amber, actually. We are each other's support team. So yes, it's just us. So we do everything. And it's good because it means, again, we know exactly what's happening for each of our clients at every moment.
Yeah.
And we're there to support each other's clients as well if one of us wants to take a holiday or needs time off. So we work so closely, we can kind of substitute for each other if we need to. But when it comes to our own clients, we're very much on across everything with them.
Okay. I want to go into submissions in more detail, but just to start, since we were talking about when you guys started the agency, and it was kind of a new thing for both of you. You both had a lot of experience in publishing, but a literary agency was quite a different thing for the both of you. And I noticed that your submissions, you ask for a cover letter and the synopsis, which is pretty standard. And then this is where it varies a bit from the norm. You ask for the full manuscript up front, just the whole thing.
I know, wild, right? It's really interesting because, yes, so we came to agenting with fresh eyes, we felt. And we were looking at this process that other agents do. And we were kind of looking around how we're going to set up this agency and make it as great as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
And it's quite clear that the agency model is this three chapters and a synopsis thing, but that's such a hangover from the days of when a paper copy would come through the door of the office, right? And so we were looking at that saying, well, we don't need to do that. And there's nothing more frustrating, in my view, than starting to read something I absolutely love and then having to stop, email someone and say, oh, can you send me the rest? And then invariably you get sucked in with something else. So when you go back to that manuscript, you've got to start all over again. And it's just not necessary because all our submissions come in by email now. So there's no need to shorten the amount that we see because we don't have any restrictions on that. There's no restrictions on how much we take. So it seems perfectly obvious to us that this is the much better way of doing it. And it also, I mean, between you and me, Jamie, I don't think it's not for everybody, but it also means when we have something coming through that we love, we can read it straight away and we can jump on the front foot with that. And then we can go to the author and say, I love this. I love the way you've done this and this and this. We're ready to go and move to that next level much quicker than an agent that's had to stop and wait and ask for the full. And it just seems to add an extra, by stopping and waiting for that full manuscript, it just adds another layer of process into the whole thing that is just not necessary in our view. So it works much better this way for us. And I'm quite honestly baffled why others don't do it, but it suits us because it means that we're ready to jump on that manuscript when we fall in love with it.
You're totally right. I'd not even thought that it was, the reason was because historically, sending 3 chapters is a manageable wedge of paper versus, the whole thing. The only thing I could think of why it's still that way is it's sort of a commitment to say, send us 3 chapters. That's a manageable amount that we will read. And this sort of our pledge to you that we'll read it. But it's, if you've got the full manuscript, you read as much as you need to.
Absolutely. And I understand that. And I know it's disconcerting for some writers when they send stuff to us and they feel that it almost takes a degree of control away from them. And that's the only thing I would say that is a negative. And I think really most authors absolutely are great with it because they know that we can carry on reading. But yes, I think that's the only thing it can be. But given that you never know how much someone's going to read anyway, it seems like a kind of false promise in a way.
Yeah, because I've spoken to a lot of agents and so many of them say, they'll read the first chapter or 2, but they know after page, 1, whether they're going to pick it up or not, or whether they're more likely not going to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's key, really, isn't it? Is often when you pick up a book, a published book. So obviously that's been through many, many layers of sort of subjective reading, and people have deemed it shareable and publishable. You might still pick it up and think, even in the first chapter or so, oh no, this isn't my kind of thing. This is not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
No, I guess it's that's how we feel. It's reading it, giving it a good shot, but and obviously knowing what we are looking for and what we expect to find.
Yeah, well, I'm sold. It's very convincing, very compelling. I bet also you filter out some of the scallywags who are sending unfinished manuscripts.
Yes. Oh yeah, there's no sneaking that through. I mean, what happens with that? You see, I've always wondered about that. With when people ask for the first 3 chapters, what if you haven't written it? I mean,
Well,
It may
I know
be-
a few agented authors who will remain nameless who did do that, and it wasn't necessarily finished. And then you see when you have that break, and then you have to email them and say, "Oh, can you send the full manuscript?" That's when they panic and have to finish it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because I guess it also makes you work on that first 3 chapters. Like, I really, really want to get a full request. So there's this focus on the first 3 chapters. And I wonder if sometimes the rest of the manuscript might get a little bit neglected, because really you've got your end game then, haven't you, when you've got the whole manuscript in and had that full request.
I bet you find that though with the full manuscript, because unless someone's said, I'm just going to, because I don't know any other agencies that just ask for the full first up. So unless they've said, I'm just going to submit to Skylark, the amount of work that goes into the first 3 chapters versus the rest of the novel for a lot of people is insane.
But that's a good thing. That's only a good thing. It's something that, is really important, those first three chapters. And they do need to grab you. I mean, the first line has to grab, the first paragraph has to work hard, the first few pages have to. So actually, if you're going to really polish any bit, that is the bit you really need to be at its tippity top best for going out there. So, maybe it's no bad thing.
I suppose when you're just, I was thinking back to the books that I've read recently, and you can, if the person's if they've bought into the concept, bought into the story, then you can get away with a lot more in the later kind of parts of the book.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's, it is the area you need to hook your reader in so quickly, and more so than ever before now, and it's got to hook so many people. It's got to hook us as agents. It's got to hook an editor. The rest of the publishing team have to be on board. And, you start spinning out more widely, and they aren't necessarily people who are avid readers or avid book people. So actually you need to be really, really strong on those first openings. And then beyond the publishing team, you've got to think about booksellers and retailers and everybody else, librarians, teachers, all these people who will be champions for your book if you can really hook them in quickly, who are time poor. They don't have a lot of time. So you want them to be picking your book up and be excited about your book over any other. So that's why, those first opening sentences, those opening paragraphs, those opening chapters are, really key for hooking people in. Yeah,
for sure. But for everyone listening, that doesn't mean the rest of the book can be terrible. It still has to be good.
Oh no, yeah. There's no wriggling out of that one. You've got to make the rest of it sing too.
Yeah. Well, that's as I said, completely sold. It sounds like something that everyone might start moving into, just requesting full manuscripts, skipping out a whole step in the process.
I'm surprised they don't. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
I'd love to know. If you could ask some agents that, I'd be fascinated to know.
I will ask the next agent. I guess you're right. It's probably just a legacy thing, and that's just the way it's always been done. Speaking of submissions now, and this is something I ask all the agents that come on. When you, first of all, are you open to submissions currently?
Yes, okay. We are.
So February 2022, open to submissions. When you receive a submission, the letter, the synopsis, the manuscript, which order do you go through them in, and how much weight do you attribute to each part?
Oh, this is interesting, and I know everyone does this so differently. So I scan the email very briefly.
Okay.
And then I dive straight into the manuscript. And that is my priority. And then if I'm enjoying it and I think, oh, this has really got something, I'll go back to the email and have a good read of the email to try and get a sense of the author. And then I probably don't get too involved with the synopsis unless I may be wondering how they're going to resolve something, or wondering if they're going to be able to pull all the threads together. Or sometimes if I'm really gripped, I might not even read the synopsis. I might just read the manuscript because I'm loving it so much. So I would say, while it's vital, and I know that synopses are the devil's work for authors, I totally get that. I know it's hideous for you guys.
Yeah.
It's really hard, but it is really helpful for us. and it's a great exercise in understanding your own manuscript to write a synopsis. But for me personally, it's the last thing I read. But I know another agent who is very quick to look at the synopsis to see if that framework of that story is as she would expect it to be. So, everyone's so different.
Yeah. So when you do the quick scan over the email, is there anything you're particularly looking for that might jump out at you, or is it more just a sort of just very briefly see what what do they call it? The like blurb for the story.
Yeah, it's really a sense of the premise of what this is. Okay. A real kind of broad brush, who the author is, why they've written this book, why it's them that's written this book, and to check that I think that they have really thought about it. I look at sometimes the comps that they've used. I think that's always quite interesting.
Yeah,
I really like seeing comparisons with books that are recently published or relatively contemporary. I think it's quite telling when authors compare their titles to books that they read as children. Sometimes things like that might just set off a few alarm bells, thinking, oh, has this person really done their research into this market that they're ready to plunge into?
Yeah.
So things like that, I'm always interested to sort of see. But I would say that's just more a curiosity, nosy, oh, what's this then?
Yeah,
sort of attitude. But the writing is the thing I need to be really up my street, to really excite me into thinking, I really want to get involved with this book.
Okay. And you said if the writing's really gripping you, you look back at the email. How much do you usually read before you look back at the email? Do you think it's about 3 chapters?
Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? It really depends. If so, for example, the story I took on most recently was a novel in verse, and I'm quite cautious about novels in verse. So I scanned the email as usual, and then I started reading. But this book was so good. I couldn't stop reading it. So I very swiftly went back to the email to just see if there were, see a little bit more background about the author, make sure she was, set in Ireland. I wanted to make sure that she had that experience of Ireland, that she, I don't know necessarily if there are pitfalls there that I wouldn't see. So, just to make sure that she was the right person for writing this book. And then I just devoured the book. And so it's when I get excited about something, when I really feel, oh, this has really got something, that's when I'll go back and go, oh, let's find out a bit more about this person. And also, for me, I really want to work with someone that I get on well with. So I really want to work with someone who's put a little bit of effort into approaching us and why they've chosen to approach us. And it's really nice if you can get a sense of that personality through that covering email, because then it sort of, again, it adds to that level of excitement about, oh, this could be someone I'm really excited about building. It's such a personal relationship, the relationship between the author and the agent. It's so close. We are so tightly bound together. It needs to be really strong. And that's a personality thing as well. There have been people that maybe, I've enjoyed the writing and then maybe not felt that their connection was necessarily there. I was worried they may have shown some resistance to editorial work, which is difficult. So maybe their personalities weren't so aligned, in which case I might step back from a book, because it is such an important relationship. And that goes both ways. I know that, maybe authors, those lucky authors who have a number of agents who are offering them representation, for them, the importance is that relationship and who they really trust the most, who they feel could really be, there in their corner, speaking up for them, and also being there to ask any silly questions, answer all the weird, wonderful things that happen in publishing that we all forget are weird and wonderful.
Yes, balmy. a balmy industry.
Yes.
No, it's 100%. That's the more agents I speak to, and actually recently had on an agent and an author together. And it really is a relationship that goes beyond professional. It's almost like it has to go beyond professional, unlike a lot of other agents with talent, as it were.
I absolutely agree, and I think that's what Amber and I both felt we weren't able to offer as editors within publishing, was that extra level of support. That it's a really I admire authors for any writer who writes and then shares their work, because that seems extraordinarily daunting to me. I can't write, but even if I could, handing it over and other people reading it is terrifying. So you have to have someone you really trust, and it's a level of trust that goes beyond, I think, maybe a normal professional relationship. And I think you really need someone who's going to support you and lift you up when you hit the inevitable old pothole along the way.
Mm-hmm. Of which I'm sure in publishing there will be many.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, there really are. And there are all stages of the publishing journey.
Yeah.
Even best-selling authors have total, nights lying awake thinking, what if this is the book that they realise that, I'm no good at writing? Every author, no matter what stage they're at, has things that terrify them, and it doesn't go away. And that's what I think is really important for writers to understand, whatever stage they're at. And I know they're looking over the horizon, like, if I can just get that, if I can just get my book on that table in Waterstones, then everything will be okay. Then I'll know. And then I'll have ticked that box. And then that happens. And then they're worrying about book 2, and what if no one likes it? What if it doesn't sell? What if I get bad reviews? When you get to that place, you never quite feel that feeling you thought you were going to feel, that big tick done feeling. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to celebrate every part of the publishing journey, I think, to really, to celebrate the fact that you sent it off to an agent. That takes courage. I think that definitely deserves a, glass of something fizzy for that, and all the way along to really celebrate what you achieve,
Yeah. I think debut authors, whether their book has been incredibly successful or just had sort of mild success, the fear to follow up with a second book is so real, and the pressure is so huge. You're right. I imagine it never ends. We always put too much pressure on ourselves.
It doesn't, but hopefully you've always got your agent who's there going, don't worry, this is normal. Don't worry about this. Yeah. We'll get through this, and then we'll find, we'll do whatever's necessary to kind of pick you up and dust you down and head off to the next challenge.
Exactly, yeah. You've got to build up that team around you. You've got to have the support system ready. And with that in mind, what advice would you give to writers who are on submission, thinking about going on submission, sending their work to agents?
I think the piece of advice I would give is try, if you can, to be patient, because the pace of publishing in general is glacial. Yeah. And it is one of the things I know frustrates authors, my authors, everybody, me actually, when I'm waiting for responses from publishers, everything is so super slow. Yeah. So find ways of distracting yourself, whether it's with a new writing project, whether it's with a different hobby, whether it's doing something else, but try and distract yourself from getting too caught up in waiting, in the waiting and the process of waiting, second guessing why you're waiting. Am I waiting because they have read it and they think it's rubbish, but they don't want to come back to me? Have they read it and have they not read it? Have they got a massive pile and mine's at the bottom? And now that means by the time they get there, they won't want to read anything ever again. The worry that goes along with the waiting, with the slowness of publishing, is something that you will need to be resilient with. So that's what I think I would is find your way of managing the waiting.
Yeah, excellent advice, and very doable, I think. Something that we can all take under advisement. So early in the year, going forwards, are there any particular genres or age groups or voices that you are specifically looking to add to your list this year? I
find this such a hard question, because I I really never quite know what is going to hit me that I will fall in love with. So there is nothing I don't want to see. But what I would love to see some really great YA, actually. I think it's sometimes easier to say what I've seen a lot of and what I'm fairly kind of well stocked with. And I would say sort of magical realism in middle grade, I've seen quite a lot, but that doesn't mean if something brilliant came along, I wouldn't fall in love with that. So I just want something that's just going to knock my socks off. You know, something really romantic in YA I'd love to see. I feel the need for a bit of romance. I love funny YA as well. I represent Simon James Green, and I think he's an example of you know, what everybody needs in YA is a bit of lightness, a bit of funniness, a bit of, you know, just really feeling the comedy of the world around you. I suppose I find the darker side of YA, especially maybe the more dystopian stuff, a bit hard going at the moment, maybe because it all feels a bit too close to reality.
Yeah.
So I would say, uplifting things that will sort of make me smile and, you know, cheer me up.
Okay,
what I'm looking for. But that, again, I'm never going to rule out anything that is, you know, thought provoking and whisks me away to a different place as well. So
yeah,
I think I've managed to fudge that question.
That was a great answer. It's always nice to be surprised, though. It's always nice to find something you didn't know you were looking for, I imagine.
Absolutely. I really feel that, actually. I think it's great to be surprised, and that's why it's sometimes I'm loath to nail my colours to a mast on that one.
Well, I'm going to force you to nail your colours to a mast on the next question, which is, Joanna, if you were stranded on a desert island with one book, which book would it be?
See, I think this is just a horrible question for a person. I just think this, I mean, honestly, it has taken so long to have a think about this.
I apologise.
And I have been round in circles thinking about this. Thank God you warned me about it. After much thought, the one I would choose would be The Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 and 3/4.
Okay.
Because it was one of the, well, at various stages through my reading life, I fell in love with books. But this one I really fell in love with, and I really felt like it was okay not to have it all sorted. And that was so enormously reassuring. So yeah. I loved it for that reason. I loved it for the diary format. I loved that once I'd read it through, I could pick it up at any point in that story and just read a few entries and laugh and be cheered up. So I suppose, and it's just so well written. Sue Townsend writes like an absolute dream. The voice in there, and I think that's another thing I really love, is a voice that is so real. So yeah, I think that would probably be my choice. But yeah, it was really, really hard. I mean, there's so much great stuff out there, but that one, I suppose. Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. Dogs want to be involved.
Yeah, the placement. So that's the one I really fell in love with and I really love. And I think I could read again and again and again till it fell apart. Oh, well, it's a lovely choice. Adrian Mole. It's been a long time since I picked up that book. Maybe I should revisit it. You won't be disappointed. It's one that you read again and think, oh my God, yes, this is so good. I love it. When you come back to something, you're like, gosh, I've forgotten how brilliant this was. I love that. I love that feeling. Yeah, because sometimes it's a bit of a disappointment when you go back to books you loved as a child. Yeah. And that's really disappointing. Yeah. When you go back and you think, oh, this was not written as well as I remember it being. Yeah, what a shock that is. But it's a great choice. And thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me and sharing your knowledge and experience with me and everyone listening, Jo. Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. And I do wish you all luck with your writing. I know it's tough, but go for it. And,
yes. Go for it,
brave.
everybody.
Go for it. Yes.
And To keep up with everything Joanna's doing, you can follow her on Twitter at Joanna Moult. If you're thinking about submitting or just want to read up about the agency, follow Skylark on Twitter at Skylark Lit, or go to the website skylark-literary.com. To make sure you don't miss an episode of this podcast, follow us on Twitter at Right and Wrong UK and on Instagram at Right and Wrong Podcast. Thank you again, Joanna, and thanks to everybody listening. We'll catch you in the next one.